Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video I'm going to show you how to make gorgeous cards like this and this using offcuts of card that you've got left over from other projects. We're going to use our Cricut machine to create the shapes and cut them from all of the different colours of card. And best of all, we're only going to use our mat once, so all of these bits of card are going to be on our mat at the same time. And I'm going to show you some tricks to make sure that all of the cuts line up with the bits of card perfectly, so you don't get any mishaps where your shape misses and you end up cutting your mat instead of the card. There are a couple of tricks to learn to make cards like this, but don't worry, it's really easy, and once you've done it once, you'll be upcycling all of your scraps of card into beautiful cards just like this. So let's head on over to Design Space and get started. Open up Design Space and start a new file. You can see I've got a heart on here because I've already chosen the image that I'm going to put on my card. You can choose any image you want, just make sure if you're cutting it quite small, then you use something that's quite simple, because if it's too complicated or too complex, your Cricut will struggle being able to cut it out really small, and you might find that your paper tears, which you don't want. So the simpler it is, for the smaller it is, the better. You also want to make sure you choose an image that comes just in one part, so it can have holes in, like this heart's got the little circles cut out, but the main image should be all as one continuous shape. Otherwise, when you cut it, you'll end up with loads of tiny bits of paper that you've got to try and stick together on your card, which would take a really long time. So a heart is quite a good one to choose, and I also do a unicorn one, which I'll show you at the end of this video. Before we cut our shapes out, we need to know what size card we're going to be making so that we know how big to make the shapes. I'm going to make an 8 by 8 inch card, which is quite large, but I think it's a good choice for cards like this with all the different shapes on, because it really allows you to give more of an impact on the card if it's nice and big. We need to make sure that all our shapes will fit on the card, and the easiest way to do that is to mock it up quickly in Design Space. So go into Shapes on the left and choose a square. If you're doing a square card, then all you need to do at the top is type in the size of the card you're making and it will resize for you. If you're doing a rectangular card, click the little padlock icon that says Lock Proportions, and then you can set the width and height separately. For example, here's a 5 by 7 inch card front. But as I said, mine is going to be 8 by 8 inches, so I'll just add that in. Here we are. So this is going to be the size of my card, and I'm just going to make it white so that I've got that border outline around the edge. I'm going to put 9 hearts on my card, but you can put whatever you want in whatever order that you want. But we need to make sure that they're going to fit. So by putting your image on top of this square, when you right click and duplicate, you can just roughly position them to make sure that when you've cut them out, they're going to fit nicely on your card. So you don't need to position them perfectly, because it's not going to cut them in this order or this positioning, but all I'm doing is just adding the amount of hearts that I'm going to put on my card, just to make sure they're going to fit on the card front. There's nothing worse than cutting everything out of all your paper scraps only to find that they do not fit on the card. That would be awful. So here we go, that's my 9, and it's not perfectly lined up, but that's okay. I've just proved here that these 9 shapes are going to fit nicely on my card. I don't want to cut out that square shape because I've already got a pre-made card that I'm going to use, so I'm just going to hide that, clicking the little eye. And now this is ready to send to my Cricut machine, and we can position it so that it's going to cut everything out of different colours on the same mat. One important thing to note here is that all your images have to be the same colour for this to work. So if you're maybe doing a mix and match of different images, perhaps you've got 3 different types of heart that you're using, for example, and they've all come in different colours, then just go into colours and make sure they're all the same colour. Everything on your screen has to be the same colour, otherwise it won't cut on the same mat, which defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here. So everything here is all nicely the same colour because it's the same image. So I can just go ahead and click make it. And you can see that they're all loading on the same colour map. Now that's fine, but what Cricut's done is it's put them all in a row because it's trying to save my material and cut them all in as little space as possible, which is great if they're all going to be the same colour cut from a big bit of card. But we're using our scraps and this is not going to work for our rainbow card. Luckily, you can just click and drag to move these into different areas of the mat. Now I'm going to take advantage of the full size of the mat for this, and so I'm going to move these around to different parts of the mat. And you need to be quite careful when you're doing this that you stay within the little grid lines, the squares, so that when you're adding the colours of card to your mat, you can line it up to match. So this, the grid on here is the same as the grid that's actually on your physical mat. So as you move stuff about, you can see this heart here at the top is between 5 inches and 8 inches. So I know when I put a bit of card on my mat to cut out this heart, my bit of card needs to be between the 5 and the 8 so that the heart will cut out of it. So when you've rearranged all of your shapes so that they're nice and separated on your card, you can head on over and start putting your little rainbow pieces of card onto your Cricut mat. So here are my 3x3 inch pieces of colour card. I've decided to do rainbow ones for this card, but you can do whatever colours you want to use up your craft stash. You can see on ones like this, it's not quite square, it's got funny edges on it. That's absolutely fine. Remember, this isn't about having perfect squares, it's about having ones that are big enough that you can cut out your shapes, but ultimately this is a way of using up all your scrap bits of paper, so you're not going to have perfect squares all of the time. Okay, so we need to put these onto our mat so that we can cut out all of the colours at the same time. So here's my Cricut mat all ready to stick to. I'm using a green mat which is standard grip, but it's quite old and it's not very sticky anymore. Usually for card and paper I'd use a light blue mat, but as this one is very not that sticky, it's fine for using with card. So what you want to do is have your mat in front of you and also if possible look at that cut screen in Design Space so you can make sure you're lining everything up in the right place. The top 4 corners are easy. All you need to do with those is put your colour along the edge of the grid on your mat and that will be fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose 4 of my colours and put them on each of the corners of my mat. Okay, the next one to kind of line up is the ones that go in the middle along the edges. So look at your screen and you can see on the middle one on mine it's between these 5 and 6 inches. So you need to check the guide on your computer, match it up with the guide on your mat, and then you'll know where you need to stick your bits of paper. So mine is going between the 5 and the 8. And then my design will perfectly cut out of the middle of that one. And again, same thing down the bottom, it's going between that 5 and 8 inch gap. So I'll stick that down there. If I move it up a bit, actually turn it around, there you go, you can see how I've done that one. And then it's just the same thing for the middle one. So again, I'm on the between 5 and 8 inches on the side. There we go. And in the middle, it's the same thing. There we are. Okay, so now we've lined all of our bits of paper or card up, following Design Space as a guide so we know we're putting it in exactly the right places. And when we feed this through our Cricut machine, it's going to cut one of those pictures on all of the different sheets of card. One thing before we cut though is just to take your scraper tool or a brayer or whatever it is that you use to secure bits of card or vinyl to your mat. I'm just going to go along them and make sure all of these little bits are nicely stuck down, because I don't want them coming up when the Cricut machine is in use. So I'm just making sure they're nice and pushed down, which is extra important when we're using these little bits of paper because they can come unstuck a bit easier. So just go along them, push them down, and when they're all nicely pushed down, we're ready to jump back into Design Space and start our cut. Once your mat's all set up, click Continue down the bottom right in Design Space and connect your machine. I'm going to select medium cardstock because most of the card that I've chosen is medium, and I think that should cut through everything, but obviously change yours depending on the type of material that you are using. I'm going to use default pressure, which should be absolutely fine for the card I'm using, and then all I need to do is make sure I've got my fine point blade loaded if it's a Maker, or your default blade for a Explore or Joy or whatever other machine you're using is, and then just put my mat in like normal with all the colours on it. Just feed it into your machine like you normally would, and you'll end up with this. So here is my mat. Now I've cut everything out, and I'm just going to peel off the edges of this to show you that each of my hearts has been cut out perfectly from each of the different colours on my mat. So this is a really great way not only of using scraps, but also as a method for cutting multiple bits of card or paper or even vinyl at the same time on the same mat. So it can save you loads of time. I mean, imagine if you'd have cut each of these colours separately on a separate mat. It would have taken so long to do. But instead, we've got all of our hearts on one mat here, made from our little scraps of card. So to take the actual bits off the mat that we're going to be using, rather than peeling it off like I just did, I'm going to turn the mat over and just bend it up slightly and pull the designs off. And the reason we do this is it stops the card from rolling. So with these ones I just pulled off, you can see all the cards rolled up, and we don't want that on our actual hearts we're going to put on our card. So to stop that from happening, I'm just taking the mat and peeling it away from the card rather than the other way around. So I'm sorry that it's kind of out of shot on the video a little bit, but I don't have much room. So just peeling all of the colours off, and then for the middle one, you can probably actually see this one the best. You can see as I peel the mat back, the bit of card is just coming off, and there we go. Alright, so now all I've got left on my mat are the little circles. I'm going to clean that off later with my scraper tool, but for now, let's make our card. This is an 8x8 inch card blank, so I've got it opening up here, and then for my little rainbow card, I'm just simply gonna put them onto my card in the position I want them to appear. So you can see on this one the circles didn't press out. If that happens with you, all you just need to do is just push them through and they should break right off. Okay, so my orange card was a bit thicker than all the others, which is probably why I didn't like it so much. So I'm just putting these on in the colour of the rainbow and lining them up nice and evenly along the card. Trying to remember the colours of the rainbow as I go along. I think this is right. Okay. Right. When you're happy with your alignment, then it's time to start sticking. And you could stick things down with glue, but that's going to create quite a flat card. So instead, I'm going to use 3D foam. This either comes on a roll, or you can get it on little bits of paper, so like this, where you get your foam pads, And you can also get little sticky dots that come in circles as well. But for this one, I'm just going to use this so I can cut it off in nice big chunks. So I've just got a bit of dirt on my card already. I'm going to cut a chunk of foam, and then starting at the top, just turn it over one by one, put the foam on the back and peel off the backing, and then just turn it around and stick it back into position. Now for now, I'm not going to push down hard, I've just gently placed that on my card, and that's so if I need to, I can move it about a bit once I've started sticking everything else on. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing for all of the other colours. So just loosely place it where you want it to go, but don't push it down just yet in case we want to move it later. I've stuck all the foam on the back of the hearts now and positioned them where I want them to go, and I'm happy with it. So now just go through each one and just push them down to make sure that that foam pad is completely sealed onto the card. We don't want them falling off. And then there you have it. That is your card all finished. So we've got our lovely handmade card with these matching pictures, and it's all used from scraps of card that we otherwise would have thrown away. Now once you've got to this stage, you can add whatever other decorations on that you want, or you could maybe experiment with putting the different shapes in maybe a circle or something other than this grid of 9, however you want to do it. So the unicorn card I showed you at the beginning, I've done very similar for that one, but for this one, just to add a little bit of glitz, I've coloured in the horns on all of the unicorns with a gold pen, and then just with a black permanent marker drawn on some ridges to show the detail on the horn. So you can see there are loads of different ways you can make this card personal to whoever you're giving it to, and also you can do it in whatever colour combinations or card combinations or whatever it is that you want. So the possibilities really are endless. I hope that you've enjoyed this card making tutorial. If you have, please give it a thumbs up using the button below this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for loads more card making and Cricut tutorials. Thank you for watching.